Okay, welcome back to part two. Here we go. I'm excited to get this finished. Right, we're going to continue on, come down here, and now I want to do some more work on these trees, but I think first of all I might get some of this pathway done, okay? And I can kind of go from there then outwards and do some shadows, all that kind of stuff. So let's get the pathway in, shall we? Yeah, let's do that, okay? I still have my same colours. I'm just going to... I have actually changed my turpentine. Let me just top it up there now a little bit because my turpentine is still a little on the dirty side. So I am just going to top up with some fresh turpentine, okay? I do have some linseed oil mixed in with this, just a little drop of linseed oil. And that's my medium. So let's go and let's have a bit of fun with this and get this finished. I'm excited. I'm excited to get this finished. I'm going to take my flat brush, okay? Just a number 10, a regular number 10 flat brush. And I'm going to start with this brown, all these browns, all right, on the tracks. So I'm going to start with some burnt umber. I'm going to take some Naples yellow. And let me see now. It's quite a pinky colour, isn't it? There's a lot of pink in this. I'm going to try some crimson. And then some more Naples yellow. The Naples yellow helps it thicken up. It makes it nice and opaque. Do you know what I mean? Let me just have a look at that now. There, you see, that's not bad. Now I'm just going to go along and I'm going to fill in where I think all this brown colour comes. And I know it kind of mixes into all the greens down in the foreground here. So I'm going to come back across a good bit. Let me take some more Naples yellow. A little more of the crimson. It's going to soften it slightly. I'm going to go up here then, come down from there. Okay, let's take a bit more Naples yellow. I just want to kind of lighten it slightly. And I'm just painting this very loosely now, just to get in the dirt part of the track, okay, the gravel. Now, as it comes down, I'm going to richen it slightly. I'm going to take some burnt umber with some burnt sienna, and I'm going to richen it ever so slightly. I will take a little bit of cadmium red, actually, to warm that. As it comes down towards the front, there's a lot of red in the colour, a lot of browny red. So I'm just going to kind of flick that through with my brush as well. So look, just kind of flicking it, making it very random, very kind of rough, alright? You don't want to go too dark with this because we need to allow for shadows. So not too rough. I'm then going to take some sienna. I'm going to start putting in some sienna. Now we have a couple of shadows up there. So what I'm going to do with my flat brush is just basically dab across and create some shadows up there, okay? And what I'm going to do then is soften the edges of those shadows. You don't want just like a very sharp line. You want a kind of a soft line, but it's prominent at the same time. So I don't want this kind of just... I don't want a solid line going right across. So I'm just very gently, very lightly sort of dabbing and mixing this into that colour underneath. Alright, that's all. Just to give the impression, and I might add a little one or two just way off in the distance. And you could even soften those in with your finger as well, look. Just to help take that rough, that kind of sharp edge off of the shadow. That's all, that's fine. That's all I need to do. Alright. Now, so, coming down, let me have a look now. I may switch to my fan brush very soon, because the fan brush will give us lots of fantastic texture in this, but this will do okay for now as well. So I'm just dabbing my brush, creating the beginning of the shadow. Okay, we have a lot of work to do on this now yet, so don't don't feel that this is the final brush stroke, as they say. This is just building the layers up. So I'm basically now just creating some texture on this gravel road, okay? Just laying in the foundation of our road. So I want to start getting very dark now as we come down. There's a very dark shadow around here. And we put another one just here. We'll darken these ones just slightly, okay? I'm just dabbing with my brush very randomly. But again, I'm not making just a very strong line. There is one very strong shadow there, if you want to kind of get that one in. I will be putting in some nice purples in this as well, okay? So fear not, we will have some nice purples going in here very soon. Let's bring that one up into our tree trunk so it just almost disappears, you see? And we can do the same with this one. Let's just drag the paint across our canvas and it disappears into that tree there, okay? So, what was I doing? Oh yeah. Now, I'm going to switch to my fan brush. I think we need a fan brush for this. A nice soft fan brush, look. And what I'm going to do is take some burnt umber. Now, I just dampened my fan brush a little bit, okay? Some burnt umber, burnt sienna, and a little crimson. And I'm going to come down here and just dab a lot of texture in across here, okay? Let's get this nice and dark. This won't be the final colour. This is just, I'm starting now to darken up this corner down here because it's very dark, isn't it? Just starting. And I'm going to go up here, add a little bit. I'm actually going to take some burnt sienna with some cadmium red and pop that lovely rich brown colour in here and there as well. Let's go with some burnt sienna, a little cadmium yellow. Now we have that lovely warm kind of colour coming into the footpath, don't we? I'm going to clean my brush just very quickly there. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow, a little burnt sienna, and some cadmium red. I want this lovely rich, it's a lovely rich kind of an autumn colour, okay? I'm just going to dab that very gently in here and there. I leave my shadow. So I just want the impression of kind of the light coming across and catching the footpath, okay? Here and there. I'll bring a piece across over here as well. And we've that lovely rich orange going right up there, and let's bring it right across and right into our tree over here, okay? And I'm going to just rub that up there then in with my finger. So I'm just trying to get that kind of lovely rich glow. It seems to get brighter as it comes up. So I'm going to lighten it ever so slightly, just around here, okay? So it's coming together. You can start to see it now just taking shape. It's starting to take shape. Let me get some more cadmium red and sienna for down here. This is very rich and warm down here. I'll widen it slightly, just ever so slightly. A little bit there. Okay. Now, I'm going to start putting some nice rich purple in here and there. Just down at this side, okay? I'm going to take some phaylo blue. I'm going to take some crimson. A tiny hint of white. And I'm making this purple more on the red side, okay? So it's going to be a bit more crimson rather than blue. So you're going for like a plum colour, okay? Or even like a dark red grapey kind of a colour. And I just want to pop some of that purple in around here. Dab, 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 dab. And then I'm going to take some black, okay? I'm going to get some very dark black with some crimson. And I'm going to go really dark. And what I'm going to do then is start giving it a bit more form. So rather than just softening it right through, I'm going to give it some more form, okay? Let's take some black with some burnt umber. And what I'm going to do then is, there's this very strong shadow. It kind of dances around. And it comes across here then. Like that. I'm going to darken this one just slightly here as well. Take some more burnt umber with some sienna. And I'm going to darken. I'll put a nice one up here. Get some more burnt sienna on that. So we're just starting to get a little bit of shape to this. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my large flat brush and I'm going to just fill in this area here. I'm going to start with some, let me get some burnt sienna on my palette. So I'm going to mix a nice rich colour for this now. I'm going to get some burnt sienna. I'm going to get a little burnt umber. And I'm going to take a little cadmium red, okay? Cadmium red hue. It's a new cadmium red. Now I'm going to take some burnt umber. I'm going to take some black, cadmium red. I'm just firstly going to fill in this here. Now it's a little bit watery, so I'm going to darken it slightly and add some stronger colour to it. Burnt umber with some black. I'm going to come up here. Bring that down and then start lightening it as it comes down. With some cadmium red, a little bit of Naples yellow. Okay, and we're just going to sort of soften those together slightly. Now, I don't like this yellowy colour here. I'm going to have to go over that again, okay, in a minute, in a moment. I'm just not happy with that. I'm going to make some more purple. I'm getting some phaylo blue with some crimson and some burnt umber. And I'm going to come down here and add that into this colour. I'm going to soften it into the footpath, okay, because it all seems to blend together down here, doesn't it, in the footpath. It almost kind of, it just merges and becomes one. And I'm going to take some black. I'm going to go up here and put some black into this, like so. Take some burnt umber into that. And then what I'm going to do is, there are some lovely rich dark greens in there. Can you see those? I don't know if you can see them on the reference photograph, but there's some lovely rich dark, rich bluey greens. I'm going to take some phaylo blue and some cadmium yellow. And again now I'm going to go for a lot more blue in this. So a lot more phaylo blue with a little black, okay? Now, let me get some more phaylo blue. And a hint of black. I'm going to go and just dab a couple of dark greens, very, very rich dark greens, and I'm creating a kind of a curvature there where the bank may be coming down. Now a little bit more blue, I'm thinking, because we're in the shadow, so when we're in the shadow it's going to be a lot more blue. Alright. And let's just stop it there. Okay. I'm going to go over to this side here, and there's a lot of that dark colour on that side as well. I'm going to lighten it ever so slightly. And I'm going to come down here, put some of that across. We'll go right over here, fill that in. I know now all these colours at the moment look very unusual, and they're kind of very contrasting. But don't worry, we will get there. It's a work in progress. Now let me get some burnt umber there into that green. Just fill this in here, this whole area. It's just basically covering, getting the canvas covered. That's all I'm trying to do. Alright, that's all I'm trying to do. Let me just leave that disappear off. Okay, we're getting there. It's just very rough ground, all this area here. It's just kind of basically a lot of roughage. And come down, let me take some blue, pop a little dark blue in just down here. You know, the feeling I'm trying to get with this painting is the light in the distance and then this dark canopy coming around it. That's the kind of feeling I'm trying to achieve in the painting. Okay, and we're getting there slowly. It's taking time, but I'm going to fix that footpath now, because I'm not happy with that footpath at all. The colours are just not working, and I'm just going to go back over it, I think. So let me get some sienna. I'm going to start with some sienna here. Let's come down there. A little bit of sienna, some Naples yellow up there. You soften that back in. So you see, you can make mistakes as you go along, fix them. You know what I mean? It's very easy to make a mistake, and you know, you kind of look back and think, I'm not kind of very happy with that now. So maybe I'll just kind of go over it again. And what I'll just basically do is soften the colours together like that, okay? And then start again from scratch. So I'm going to start now by putting in that nice green in the centre. So I'm going to mix some of this bright colour here with a little tiny amount of white. And I'm going to start over here. I can see some nice rich bright greens over here. I'm going to start just dabbing them in very lightly. There's a lovely one just here. And it gets even brighter, doesn't it? And I'm going to suggest a little bit of light just on some of these as well. Just the odd one, okay? And let them sort of disappear. And then I'm going to come over to this side over here and pop one or two of those in. Soften them down. So it does take time, you know what I mean? It takes a lot of time to get all of this just right. And in fact, it's probably never going to be right. But it is a lot of fun trying, and you're learning all the time. Let me just fill this in here with this wonderful green. And that's a lovely bright green. I want to keep it warm, so I'm taking a hint of sienna. Just scrape it along, look, just fill that in. Okay. There we go. So now we have the basic stuff kind of filled in. Let's go and get that bright colour. I'll take a hint of phaylo blue and a little white. What I want to do is I'm going to come down and just start adding a few lights into these here and there, okay? So there's one here, one nice bright one. I'm not going to overdo this now too soon. So I'm going to start off gentle, okay? Just nice little bits here and there. And pop one or two in here. Pop a couple up here. I'm just dabbing with the brush. I'll go along now with my knife later on and put some nice strong brush marks on that with my palette knife, I think. Just to give more of a kind of a bushy feel. Does that make sense? There we go. So it's starting to develop. You know, it's very, very slowly starting to develop. The main issue for me now is this roadway here, this pathway, alright? This is my main concern. So I'm going to start putting in some darker and lighter shades on this, and then we'll work on the gravel on the outside. Okay? So let's get some darker colour. I'm going to start with some phaylo blue, a little cadmium yellow, and that's quite a kind of it's a rich green. It's a dark green, but it's rich. So I'll go with that for now, okay? And I'm just going to come down here and start dabbing some of that in across here and there. Let's take a bit of brown actually. It needs a bit of burnt umber, I think, just to warm it ever so slightly. And it seems to be much darker most of the way down. In fact, even as it comes down here, it gets really dark, doesn't it? There's some black in that. And let's just continue that right across here. And my technique for this now is just sort of, for now, just dabbing, okay? Just dabbing with the edge of my brush. And let me get some black with some burnt umber. I'm going to just get the back end of these. Okay, now I'm just going to use my fingertip just to sort of dab them, soften them slightly. And then I'm going to go for a slightly smaller brush, okay? Let me find a nice small brush now for this. I want to start adding some little lights, okay? So I'm going to dampen this, get some of this very rich, bright, greeny kind of colour up here. Take a little hint of white, just to brighten it slightly. Maybe a hint of sienna, just to warm it a little. With lots of that thick paint, I'm just going to go in here and just start putting in Few little lights here and there. And I want to come out into my, even into my roadway as well with some of them. There's one or two light ones kind of popping through here and there. Clean the brush, keep it nice and clean. Then I go up here where it's very bright and very rich and warm even. And let's continue that up. Alright, I'll go over here and add some of that warm colour to some of these. And I'll add some of that warm colour to one or two of these. So the technique is thick on thin, okay? That's the technique I'm using. Thick on thin. Now it's a good idea as well to clean your brush every so often. Just give it a good wipe on some tissue to keep it nice and clean and fresh. And let's put a couple of these. Let's just rough it up a little. Okay, down here, add a couple of those. I want to keep the kind of the darkness as it comes down. I want to kind of keep that darkness. I don't want to go too. I don't want to lose that. Understand? I want to keep that lovely richness down here. Just one or two more just there. Okay. Now I want to really go bright, white and some yellow. I want to really go very bright just around the center where this very bright light is coming through. I'll add a couple up here as well. So I'm following that line right across like this and then down into this here. And then when you get to the sandy, the rough section of the road, we'll get some Naples yellow with a little cadmium red, a little cadmium yellow, and I'm going to just add some lightness across the road between those two. Okay, and almost softening them together as well. So let's try that again. Naples yellow, cadmium yellow, and a little, let's even try some burnt sienna in this. Okay, let's come down here and try it there. So I'm just building on layers, building them up. Okay, now I want to start putting in some of the dark sections of the road. I think for that I'm going to try a fan brush for some of my real strong shadows there. I'm going to get some black burnt umber, a little burnt sienna, and let's try just do this again. Let's try and get these a little bit more, a little bit nicer, you know what I mean? Let's go with this. Let's get some cadmium red in there as well. Okay, and I'm going to go with a nice strong one for this up here. Alright. And where the shadows are going through the footpath, you need to put a dark green through there, okay? So where you have a dark shadow coming across the footpath, you then need to have a dark green going through the center, okay? Now, let me just sit back and take a look at this just for a moment. Okay, I'm going to start strengthening all of this down here. So let me get a nice fan brush here now. Let's get nice and dark down here. Let's go in here with some black. I'm going to start strengthening all of that. Simple fan brush. And I'm using plenty of turpentine in this as well, by the way. Go in here and start darkening some of those. Because that first layer I put on, that first dark layer, is starting to kind of dry in ever so slightly. I'll take a little phaylo blue in this with some crimson. I'm going to go with some purple. And let me get some nice darks through here. Okay? Get some burnt umber. I'm going to darken this up right down here. Okay. Going back to my medium flat brush, I'm going to start softening some of these because they're kind of too prominent. I want to soften them back in slightly, particularly up on top. I want to keep it nice and soft up here. I'm going to soften all of these back in as well. Some of these I'm going to soften in. I'm going to soften some of these light ones back in. So you can see now, it's a case of just putting layers upon layers upon layers. You're never going to get it right the first time. I very rarely get things right the first time. I normally have to go back over them later on. I normally do. Because, it's, you know, we're not going to get it perfect first time. Now, I want to just leave this for a moment. And let's go up there and start getting this dark foliage in. What I'm going to do first is start putting some real strong dark branches up there, alright? So I'm going to get a nice round brush. A nice round brush. Or you can even use a flat brush, I suppose. A nice small flat brush. Oh, here, look. I have a nice round brush here. Now, let me just take a look. Come back and take a look at this. So you can see now, we did a lot of work on this, but there's still a lot more to do, okay? I'm going to kind of pick out the footpad a little bit more later on. But I just want to get this big canopy in. Lovely, rich, dark canopy. I'm going to take my small round brush. I'm going to take some black. And I'm going to come down here into the purple. So I'm going to take some phaylo blue. Lots of turpentine. Some crimson. Some black. And I'm going to start darkening. I'll actually darken this tree here first, this tree trunk. Not all the way down, just start at the top. And then I'm going to darken this branch here. And then what I'm going to do is soften that down with my fingertip, okay? Sometimes the fingertip really is the only way of softening something just right. You see what I mean? Just like that. just down like that. Okay, now let's go up and start putting some nice dark branches in. Let me just get some black on my palette. Now we have black, so I need some phaylo blue. Phaylo blue is probably my favourite colour in terms of blues and shadows and all that kind of thing. It's probably one of my favourites because it's such an earthy kind of a colour. It's really, really wonderful, especially for rich, deep shadows. Now let's dampen our brushes again. Let's get some black, some phaylo blue. Let's go for some cadmium red. A very rich, dark, purpley kind of a colour. That's what I want. And I'm going to go up here and just start putting some very loose branches in up there. Okay. I'm going to come over and darken some of these. Just one or two here or there. Okay, not bad. And next, this is the section that will really excite me now about this, okay? Let's get a palette knife. Will we try and do some work with the palette knife? I think we should. I'm going to take this kind of a palette knife, okay? And I'm going to mix very blacky green. That's like a very blacky green up there, isn't it? Let's just take some paint now. Let's go with black. Okay, I'll use what colours I have left. Black, some of the yellow, and a nice big dash of phaylo blue. Mix that up. That will give you a very rich blacky green, okay? But I want a bit more blue in this. Some more phaylo blue. Because it's not very often we use the knife in these tutorials. But it's nice to get a bit of knife work going every now and then. Okay, I'm going to come up here. And I'm just going to start dragging some of that along there, okay? Now you can, if you wish, dip the tip of your knife into some turpentine, just to thin it ever so slightly, if you like. If you're nervous about using your palette knife with this, you can, of course, use your fan brush or something like that if you want, okay? It's entirely up to yourself. But I think the knife just gives you a nice rough, see, nice rough kind of a feeling every now and again. Now, I'm going to stand for this because it's much easier to do it when you're standing. And just keep dragging your paint. Just looking at the reference photograph, you can see there's a kind of a big block of it up on top here. It's really dark, isn't it? Let's just keep pulling our paint out. You can't really make out any of the leaves up on top. They're just more of clumps. It's more clumps of dark colour really, isn't it? Now, I'm going to switch knives. I'm going to go to this smaller shape. This will give us a bit more control, I feel. And I need to get a lot more paint out on my palette. Let's go and get lots of black here now. Big dollop of black. We have some blue already. So let's go and take some black. I need to get more cadmium yellow. Okay. Little touch of that. And loads of phaylo blue. Again, all that phaylo blue will give us lovely cool tones. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to just try and do some more of the prominent foliage here. So you can see that. Just give it a couple of rough sort of flicks, you see? They're a bit more solid, aren't they? So you can see now how this knife differs from the other one. This gives you a lot more control over your foliage, doesn't it? Much more control. Now, let's mix up a bit more. And I'm going to get, we have a bit of black actually already, so I'm just going to need more phthalo blue. And let's cover all of this in here. Let's just really go crazy now with this. Those three colours together, look, lovely rich dark colours. Okay. And don't worry, I will be adding some nice lights into this in a moment. So we will be just catching some light leaves, some nice light greens, that kind of thing, okay? So let's just get the top of this now filled in. Get this nice impression of this canopy covering the top of our canvas up here. I want all this really, really covered in, okay? Some black, some blue. Go for even a little burnt umber as well. So why not? That'll warm it a little bit for us. Come over here. My apologies, I hit the camera. And let's come over here and add a bit there like that. Foliage on trees is very random, but try and give us some kind of sort of structure if you can. Like here, for example, you see, just that's a nice little one coming down there, isn't it? And now I'm going to start adding a little bit more lighter colour in, because I want to just kind of catch some of the lights here and there. So I'm going to take some Naples yellow and some cadmium yellow, mix that in, and I'm going to just sort of pop that in here and there. Lovely impasto techniques going on. This is wonderful. I love this kind of painting. Knife work. It's such a joy to do sometimes, isn't it? It's a nice change from using your brushes all the time. You know, it just gives you lots of freedom. Okay, that's good. I'm loving this lovely dark silhouette we have here against that light background. That's really nice. And keep dragging your paint off. Bring that down just a little over here. And I'm just going to start covering more up on top here, okay? I'm just going to drag the paint around to really block it in. Okay. How was that looking? No, that's not bad. Now, I know you can see a bit of a sheen there because of the light. You see the way the light is hitting? But it's actually really... See, it's really dark. Now, I think it needs a bit more. Let's just keep going. Okay, especially around the centre here. There's a very dark spot right around the centre here. And there's a couple of really dark spots. There's really one very dark spot there. Okay, I'm going to get a small pointy brush and I'm going to just paint one or two little branches first. Okay, just here and there. get my stick and just one or two little tiny branches coming down. One or two up here. Let's bring one or two out of this. One or two over here. Okay. And I might add a couple of those over here as well. I'm actually going to add some light into some of these over here as well, by the way. So I'm going to clean my brush. I'm just going to take some white. I'm going to take some crimson and some cadmium yellow. And I just want to add one or two lights to some of these over the distance. Just a few, not much. Now, I also want to add one or two branches coming off this big chunky branch in here. And one maybe just like that. Then I want to darken in here as well. So you can see now how I kind of just, even with a dry brush, I add little touches of colour here and there, little darknesses. So just because we finished all of these the last time, it doesn't mean that we're still finished. Do you understand? You can still kind of come along and put little suggestions, you see, like that. One or two just across here like that. Then I'm going to darken the back of these. Okay. And it even gets to a stage sometimes where you don't even need to look at the reference photograph. You can just sort of go your own way, make it your own. You know, the reference photograph for me is there really only for colours, okay? To see how the colours interact with each other. That's the only reason I have a reference photograph, to be honest. I try to make the colours similar, but you know, it doesn't bother me if the colours are not exactly the same, okay? Because they don't have to be exactly the same, realistically. I'm going to take some of this yellow, take a little bit of red as well. I'm going to go with this nice salmon kind of a colour, and I'm just going to go in here with that nice salmon colour and soften that into this tree, just at the base. Pull some of the yellow up into it, and the same here, and even the same on this one. Okay. Now, I'm going to start working on this footpath, okay? I really want to get this looking proper. I'm going to start taking some dark colours. Look, some of this really dark blacky green. And I'm going to just start adding a little bit of shape to the centre of the road. Just giving the back end of those just a little bit of shadow. And it sort of defines the footpath a little bit better then, doesn't it? See what I mean? Little touches like that really make a difference. They really, really do. Then I'm going to come over with some burnt umber, and I'm going to just pop some burnt umber across where the shadows are hitting. So a little bit of burnt sienna with burnt umber here. A little bit, just little dabs of colour, little dots. Just to give it some prominence, you see, just to make it stand out that little bit more. And you could even use your palette knife for this as well if you wanted. So it could be little stones, little pebbles, that kind of thing. Then I want to get a nice... In fact, you know what I will do? Let me see. I'm going to take a fan brush and I'm going to mix a nice purple, okay? Because I can see now this would really look nice with a bit of purple in there as well. So I'm going to take my fan brush and I'm going to mix a nice purple, okay? Phaylo blue, crimson, and a little white. Just a little. I'm going to take that and put some of that purple in here. I can see little hints of that purple kind of popping through here and there. Okay, I don't know if you can see that or not now, but there's a lovely kind of a purple colour just showing through in the shadows. Put a little bit across the shadows in to the other sides as well. And I might even there we go, you see, strengthening the shadows just a little. Then I go into my greens and give them a little bit of darker colour just here and there. So you can see now how it's just constantly adding and adding and adding. But trying to be careful not to overdo it as well. Now I want to get some of these brighter yellows a little bit more prominent, okay? I'm going to take some cadmium yellow with a little bit of the green already in it and take some white. Mix a bit of white into that. Lots of thick paint, because this thick paint will stick much better to this layer that we have, okay? Remember that, and just go along. Make that nice and rich now, nice and bright, okay? And let's put some across here, like that. Little hint of it up there. So you can see I'm just sort of using my brush on its edge and just putting little flicks of colour in here and there. That's all I'm doing. Trying to keep it simple. That's a nice strong bright that we have in there, isn't it? Between that shadow and that one. And then we have some really nice brights around here. We have one or two there. One or two up there. Okay. And I'll put a suggestion of one or two little leaves, that kind of stuff, roughage, foliage, you know, anything. It's just little bits and bobs. Add a little bit of light to some of these up here. So you can see the way the light is just kind of coming across and catching. Now this may be a little bit more complicated for some of the beginners out there, but you could just keep it simple as well. Now let me get some burnt sienna with some Naples yellow, and I'm going to start warming some of the shadowy parts of the footpath. I'm just going to start warming some of them with a little burnt sienna, a little bit of Naples yellow, some of the yellowy colour here as well. And it's just a case of adding a little bit of texture, that's all. A little bit of texture to the footpath. A little bit just around here and there. And it's been really fun now trying this and getting to grips with different, lots of various techniques. I really enjoy doing that knife work actually. I may go back and do a little bit of it, but I want to be careful not to overdo it, because you can very quickly overdo something like that and you can just keep going and going and going, and before you know it, there's too much of it there. So you need to be careful as well. Take a bit of Naples yellow and a little hint of the white. I'm going to go up here and just lighten some of that. Okay. Then let me get a little bit of dark. Just pop a little bit of dark in. Around the edges of some of those. So yeah, it's a lot of fun trying these types of paintings. Now let me just sit back and take a little bit of a look. Let me just first now add a little bit more sienna. It just needs to be a bit warmer in some of these. Let me just sit back now and take a quick look and see how we're doing so far. It's not bad. It's not bad so far. I'm going to darken some of this, I think. Yes, I'll get some of the purple, some of the black, and I'm going to darken in here, because that's a lovely silhouette in there, isn't it? Okay, that's okay. And I'm going to create some more dark as well over in these. So following the shadows, following the lines of the shadows. You see? Does that make a little bit more sense? Now I'm going to go up the top, up there, with my small brush, and I'm going to just add a couple of slight highlights popping through some of the leaves here and there, okay? Just letting it sort of flick around. And I'm not even trying to paint leaves now, it's just little flicks of colour with the brush, that's all. Okay, that's all I'm doing. Now, okay, we can go up and we can do a few more, perhaps around up there. Just one or two. That's really all you have to do. Just one or two here and there. You don't have to go crazy with all of this. Okay, I'm going to add a little couple of branches, twigs, that kind of thing popping out Maybe a little hint of sienna, just to catch the warmth of that sun. Okay. I'll take a little tiny bit of white and a little tiny amount of cadmium yellow. And I'm going to just add a little bit of more of a glow up there. Then I'm going to soften it. My finger like that. Little hint of sienna. And I'll create a little tiny shadow from that tree kind of coming across there, glancing across. Okay, there we go. And perhaps a hint of a shadow from this big tree as well. And then we get a darker green for across the center, like that. And a lot of this is kind of quite soft, you know what I mean? So what I might actually do is try with my soft brush, very gently, pull some of those colours together, okay? Now very gently. If you're not confident enough for this, just leave it, or even soften it in with your fingers, if you like. But I just think getting a nice soft feeling up there would be nice. I think it really would. You just soften some of these colours together up there in the distance. Okay. And that's not bad. That is not bad at all. There's one thing I need to do. I'm going to take some of my bright colour, cadmium yellow, little white, tiny amount of phaylo blue. And I just want to really brighten a bit more cadmium yellow. I want to really brighten the centre green. Some of those, okay? So for instance, I just want to kind of catch the ridge on some of those. Just to give it a bit more shape. Does that make sense? You see what I mean? And that just kind of shows the centre of this walkway a little bit better, I feel. Maybe a little there. And let me have a look around now. Add a touch of it just there. Is that a bit better now? It kind of shows off the centre of the path just a little bit better, I find. I think it really does. Yeah. Not bad at all, my friends. And I'll take a little bit of phthalo blue then, and some of the yellow. Create a very rich dark green. And I'm just going to pop some of the dark green in where the shadows cast across that green. You see? Creating the dark side. But I won't go crazy, I won't go absolutely mad, but it's just a little bit here and there. Okay, and then perhaps just a little across. See, it's very easy to turn a normal regular brush painting into a knife painting, just by going along with your knife afterwards and adding colour with your knife. So it can very quickly become a nice painting in its own right. Now my friends, I think I will leave it. Will I put in a person? I might put in a person walking off in the distance. Shall we say someone in silhouette? Let's try somebody in silhouette. Let's take some black, burnt umber actually, and let's put a person. Remember, it's just the shape of a carrot. And I'm trying to get the scale just right, okay? That will do. And a little dot for the head, then a little shadow coming off that person. And there we go. And perhaps a little light. Naples yellow. Just a little. And we call it done, my friends. How is that? We zoom in slightly. Just a nice simple forest scene. And you could tip away with this now, you could walk away with it, but in general I'm quite happy with this. The frame will make this really, really nice. So there we go. Let me turn the camera and show you myself. Okay, now, done. I hope you enjoy that. Please do subscribe if you haven't done so already. Let me know what you think. Try it, but just try and keep it simple if you can. I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you so much for all your support again. And if you want to support me, Patreon has lots of extra tutorials over there for you to follow if you wish to support me in that kind of a way. Check it out, see what you think. I'll be back very soon with another landscape. I'm thinking about doing maybe a cloud tutorial next. Big kind of sunsetty clouds up in the sky, just clouds, nothing else. Let me know what you think. It might be interesting, I think, show you how to paint kind of basic shapes of clouds, that kind of thing. So we'll see. Thank you so much. I'll be back very, very soon with another tutorial. Happy painting and keep it simple. That's all I'll say. Keep it simple.